Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So Bismillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulihi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in wa man tabi'ahum bi ihsani ila yawm ad-din wa ba'd. So we'd like to welcome you all to our fourth week of this book that we're covering. It's called Aqidatul Awwam, which is translated as the creed or the theology or the belief of the common folks or the masses or the lay person. And so this is a book that's written in poetry form by an author whose name was Imam Ahmad al-Marzuqi. Where was Imam Ahmad al-Marzuqi from? Where was he born?
Egypt.
He was born in Egypt?
Yeah, that's what they say. He was from Egypt.
Okay, all right. I'm just checking. Just double checking.
Don't be trying to play with me now.
Okay, alhamdulillah. So his name was Imam Ahmad al-Marzuqi al-Hassan al-Husseini al-Azhari al-Maliki. And so all of that in the name tells us where he was from, where he was born, his school of thought, where he was educated at, and also what's his lineage. So when we say that he is Hassan and Husseini, what does that mean? That he is a descendant of who?
Prophet Muhammad, the grandchildren of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Right. And so, and then the people who are descendants from the grandchildren of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what are they known as?
Al-Bayt.
Ahlul Bayt.
Ahlul Bayt.
Ahlul Bayt, or the people of the house. And so the people of the house, meaning that everybody who is descendant from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his cousin and son-in-law Ali, may Allah be pleased with him, radiallahu anh, his daughter Fatima, and they had two sons, Hassan and Hussein. And so these five people, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Fatima, Ali, Hassan, and Hussein, they make up a concept that we covered last week. They are known as what?
Ahlul Kisra.
Kisa.
Kisa.
Yeah,
Ahlul
Kisa. And what does that mean? We got a new Shahada here, Sister Stevie.
The cloak.
The cloak. Yeah, the people of the cloak. And so this is based on the narration of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Said one time he gathered, he saw his daughter coming, Fatima, and then he saw Ali coming, then Hassan and Hussein, and he put them under a cloak, and he said that this is my family. And so from that narration, and everybody who is descended from them by blood is called Ahlul Bayt. And also, what's another? Can someone else be Ahlul Bayt that may not be a descendant by bloodline?
Yes.
Who would that be?
The people that follow the teachings of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they have a connection to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Would that include us?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, good. So anybody who is righteous and upright and carrying the banner of Islam, they are by extension Ahlul Bayt, but they shouldn't go by saying that, I'm from the Ahlul Bayt. That'll be similar to someone saying that they're, from they're the princes of Munda and they're the heir to the throne, and they ain't never been to Africa. It's that kind of thing. I throw dry jokes in there. Y'all should probably figure that out by now. They're funny to me. I don't care if they're not funny to anybody else. I had a laugh. That's all that matters.
Good, Imam.
Yeah, so alhamdulillah. So last week we talked for Sister Stevie. If you put your email in the comment section, I'll email you the book, and you will have to go back and review the classes. There have been 3 recorded classes so far, and so we do a little review before we continue. So you won't be totally lost. I mean, the information in this book is not really anything complex, but it is something that we need to know, inshallah. So, but if you put your email in the comment section with the little message icon, that looks like a text, and then I can email you the book, and you'll have access to the YouTube videos. And I think you may be in our WhatsApp group for our community here locally. Is that true, Sister Stevie? Yeah.
Yes, that's true. Yes, sorry.
Okay. All right. And so we upload them on our social media pages. And okay, alhamdulillah. So I'll send you the book. I don't know if you have it, but I'll send it anyway. So we've covered up to line 10 so far. And last week we mentioned that we would do a review of the necessary attributes. So alhamdulillah, since I have Sister Zakaria on and Sister Zenzele, right? Did I get it right? I asked you all to review the 13 necessary attributes and to be able to run them off. And since you all have given us the honor of showing your face today, then that means you can just run it down the line looking at the screen. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, yes, yes.
That's the only reason why I put you lucky. That's why I put my hijab on. I knew you was coming. I knew it was coming.
I really appreciate it. I appreciate you honoring my request. And so, and the reason why, I mean, because I don't want put any sisters through any hardship, having to do that. But in this knowledge that we're learning, it's important that certain things we want to be memorized. So I need to know that you know it, because we're doing like interactive learning. But this is probably the best that we can do in some instances where we had a traditional face-to-face learning. So some things I will need to see you do. Okay. All right, so we had 13 necessary attributes that we covered last week. And just for the sake of our Sister Stevie, what do we mean by necessary attributes for Allah?
These are the attributes that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala subscribes to himself in regards to his essence.
Right, so, and the short was that. So these, in short, that these attributes are necessary for us to know, because these are the attributes that make Allah who He is, why He is to be worshipped, why we believe in Him, because He possesses these attributes that are absolute and unique, related to His essence, His attributes, and His actions. Right, and so the one who is mukallaf, they have to know these. They have to know these in detail. All right. And what do we mean by mukallaf?
An age.
Okay. Mukallaf is the age of responsibility. The one who reaches it. All right. Someone has that mic on. Okay. So mukallaf is the one who reaches the age of responsibility, and taklif means responsibility when you reach it. So what involves that responsibility? What is that age? What are the signs?
15, when they reach puberty, typically the age of 15 for the male and the female. Regarding the male, he has to, the pubic hairs or the dream that men have. Females, usually the menstrual cycle. The person has to be sane, have a sound mind. And they have to have the message of Islam has to have reached them.
Okay, so let me tweak it just a little bit. That was right though. So for males and females, for females, there is only one sign of that they have reached the age of taklif, or they become mukallaf, and that is their cycle. Right. For males, it is one of the three that they reach first. Either they have a nocturnal emission or a wet dream, they begin pubic hairs, or their voice changing, or they reach the age of 15. So for a male, whichever one of those occurs first, then they have become mukallaf. And then when we say they become mukallaf, we mean that they become responsible for the Islamic knowledge. And then another thing we said, let me see if you caught it on, that not only do they become responsible for knowing this knowledge for themselves, that there's something else that occurs too.
The angels start to record their deeds.
Right, the angels start recording their deeds, so everything really starts becoming official. And before they reach that age of mukallaf, all of the good deeds that they've done, they also go on their scale, but they weren't accountable for them, nor the bad deeds. But once they reach the age of responsibility, they become responsible and liable for the good and bad that they do. All right, okay, good. And so these necessary attributes that once they reach the age, they are responsible for knowing them for themselves. And in the science of aqidah or belief, that each person, they have to understand and know in depth why they believe in Allah and what it is that what are they supposed to believe in Allah and what are the rational proofs and all these things that we're covering in this book. All right, and so in that, when a person becomes mukallaf, it becomes wajib, it becomes necessary or mandatory that they know these attributes of Allah and they know them, and they know that they know them. All right, and so there are 20 attributes that they have to know, and that doesn't exclude the many attributes that Allah has. For instance, we all know that there's a list of 99 attributes in the authentic hadith where the Prophet ﷺ said that whoever memorizes these names and they act upon them, they will be given paradise. So that's one list of attributes, but Allah's attributes are not, names and attributes are not limited to 99. They are innumerable. But the scholars have put together a format that some attributes are more prevalent than the other ones. Some are more mentioned than other ones. For instance, there's one attribute that Allah has that's maybe mentioned 2 or 3 times in the Quran. Do you know it? Anybody want to take a stab at it?
What did you say?
That there's a couple of attributes that are only mentioned like 1 or 2 times in the Quran. That if you don't know what they are, you might not even know that they're attributes. Anybody having examples?
Would it be al-Awwam?
No, that's mentioned a few times, but that's something you're familiar with as being one of Allah's 99 names. So for instance, I ain't going to keep putting you on the spot like that. So for instance, Allah mentions in the Quran that he is Dhun Tiqam. You ever heard this?
Mm-mm.
That he is Dhun Tiqam, meaning he is the possessor of revenge. He is the possessor of revenge. But that's not an attribute that Allah is known for, even though it is one of his names and attributes, right? And it's mentioned, I
Can you
think,
spell
maybe
that?
once. Yeah, this is just for a little talk, but I'll put it in English. So you would see it like Tiqam. All right, so I put it in the chat as Dhun Tiqam. And I forget the exact reference. I'll put in the WhatsApp group. So this is not an attribute that is that you necessarily have to know about Allah, but it's one that He has, right? So it's not necessary for you to know that Allah has this attribute of that He is the one who possesses revenge, because that's not what Allah that's not necessary for Him to do. But it's necessary for Allah to have these other attributes that we're going to cover. So now that was just an example, but let's get to these 13 necessary attributes that we went over last week. Who can run them off, off the dome?
I'll try.
Okay.
I only know about half.
Okay. You can give it a try though, inshallah.
You wanna go first, Sister Zali?
Ooh, thank you.
Who's got the 856 number? Who's that on the 856 number? Someone called in on the phone. Assalamu alaikum. You there?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I should have muted my phone. I apologize.
No. I'm talking to you now. I'm trying to find out who you are.
Amina, Sister Amina from Philly.
Okay, mashallah. Okay, thanks for joining us. Did you want to try to say the names, or you wanted to hear somebody else say them, and then you'll get them?
I know some.
Okay. You want to go first?
You're talking about the 99 attributes? Or
No.
the ones last week?
No, the ones from last week.
I missed that class.
Okay. All right. Well, you have an excuse. So Sister Zakaria is going to take the helm right now, and then Sister Zenzele is going to follow up, inshallah.
You want me to do the ones from last week or the ones from the other week?
Last week. We did the 13 of them. We did 13 of them.
Yeah. Okay. So Al-Qiyam bin Nafs.
Try to say them in order if you can.
I'm. This is the order I memorized. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
you doing like freestyling. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not
Go,
using
go,
my
go,
paper. That's why
I
I
can't
got
wait.
my.
I gotta
That's the
listen
only reason
to
why I
this.
got the camera on.
Okay, cool. Go ahead. Go. All right.
They'll be throwing me off, man.
All right. Oh, you freestyling. Okay. That's authentic. All right, go ahead.
Okay. Al Qiyam bin Nafs.
Uh-huh.
Al Wahdaniya. You want me to
Wahdaniya.
say what the Wahdaniya?
Yeah, Wahdaniya.
Wah. The hard H.
Yeah.
Wahdaniya.
Good.
Al Haya.
Al-Haya, good.
Al Qudra.
Al-Qudra, good.
Al Israda.
What was it?
Is it Israda? Am I saying it right?
Al-Irada.
The willing.
Al-Irada.
Al Irada. Al
Al-Irada.
Irada.
Okay, that's 5.
Shoot. My brain just went to fart.
Okay.
Oh, Asamu.
As-Sam'u.
Asamu.
Uh-huh.
Al Basar.
Al-Basar.
Al Basar.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I can't think right now.
Okay, you done?
Yeah.
All right, no question. You got 7 out of 13.
Alhamdulillah.
That's a good percentage. That's like a D plus, a C minus. It's a passing grade, but alhamdulillah. Well, good work. No, good work. Okay, we're gonna go over these. I just want to try to jog your memory a little bit. Okay, Sister Zenzele.
Okay, so if that's a C minus, sis, I'm about to fail.
No,
so
yeah.
I've got we've got Al Riyada, well, Al Wajib, Al
Al-Wujud.
Al Wajud,
Uh-huh.
Al Quda,
Al-Qidam.
Al Kidam, Al Al Riyada, Al
Al-Irada.
Riyada.
Irada.
Oh, Irada.
Yeah, that's 3.
Al Ilm,
Al-Ilm.
Al Haya,
Al-Haya.
Al Samu,
Al-Sam'u.
Al Basr.
Al-Basar.
That's all I got for you.
Oh, it's okay. Y'all 7 of them match.
Wait,
Okay.
Al Muhatakala Lil Hadwada. I remember the first 4. I was trying to do the last 7, the last one that you gave us from last week. I remember the first 4.
Okay. Al-Mukhalafa lil Hawadith.
Lil Hawada.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna go them. I just want to see if you got them. Okay. Because before this course is over, you all gonna have to really know them and be tested on them. Okay. All right. So it should be al-wujud, which is existence. Al-qidam, which is pre-eternal existence, right? Al-baqa, which means everlasting or without an end. Al-mukhalafa lil hawadith, that Allah is distinct and dissimilar from His creation. Al-wahdaniyah, that He has oneness, that He has ilm, He has knowledge, He has qudra, He has power, that He has irada, He has will, He has al-haya, He has life, that He is attributed with as-sam'u, hearing, al-basru, al-basr, sight, and al-kalam, that speech. Okay. So before this is all over, you all gonna have to run them off like that, inshallah. But
Are these in the book like this?
Huh?
Are these in the book like this?
No. Remember,
I'll just listen to the video again.
No, I'm going to give you a list.
Okay.
All right. So in the book, remember the author, he said he had a dream that the Prophet Islam, approved of this, right? And so he mentioned some of them because he's put in the poem form, so he didn't mention them explicitly. But this is a book that the scholars from previous generations, they have concluded that these are the necessary attributes for Allah. So we're going to cover them in a few moments. So I just want to, see where you guys were at. All right. All right. So we're going to go to the. So today we're just going to go over these attributes. We're not even going to go into the book. Okay. All right. Any questions so far? Sister Stevie, are you following along pretty well?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Okay. So the slides that is going to come after is going to present this. So you all remember last week that I said that we need to know the attributes and that we're going to classify them, that they're classified in different categories. All right. So that's what we're going to do today, inshallah. Okay.
Is the classification the Sifat Wajib Baji Allah? Is that what that is?
Wait a minute. You say it again.
The classification that called the Sifat Wajib Baji Allah. Mandatory nature of Allah?
Yeah, wajib.
Okay. And those were the four you gave us: the Sifat an Nafsiya, and Ma'ani. Right? Those ones?
Yeah, we're gonna do that right now.
Okay.
Good. Just get this. Okay. All right, is this still sharing? Can you all see that?
It just says presenting.
Okay.
It doesn't have anything up there yet.
Okay, hold on. Let me get this right. Come on, what's going on? Hold on, give me a second. Audio, videos. Okay. Okay, you see that?
Nothing's on there. It's just a gray screen, but yeah.
Okay, all right, there you go. All right, so now we begin with the necessary attributes. All right, so remember, let's go over them again. Al-Wujud, Al-Qidam. So Al-Wujud means that Allah is existing, always existing. Al-Qidam is that he existed pre-eternally, meaning without a beginning. All right. I intentionally left off the translation, so I want you to get these Arabic terms down, and then you can go back and look at the translation. So Al-Qidam means that he is pre-eternal or existing without a beginning, right? Al-Baqa means he is everlasting or enduring, that he doesn't come to an end. Mukhalafa lil hawadith, meaning that he is opposite. Mukhalafa means he is different or opposite or dissimilar lil hawadith. So any occurrence, that he is different from any occurrence, means that he is opposite of anything in creation. So hawadith is a word that comes from hadith. And then we mentioned that something that is an event, that is an occurrence, that's something that has a beginning point. That Allah, so he is opposite of anything that occurs or comes into existence. All right. So we got al-wujud, al-qidam, al-baqa, and I want you all to listen to the recitations of these. Al-wujud, al-qidam, al-baqa, al-mukhalafa lil-hawadith. Then the next one is qiyam bi-nafs, or al-qiyam bi-nafs, meaning that Allah is self-subsisting. And so he is independent of himself, meaning that he is not in need of anything for him to be who he is. All right.
Would that be also al-ghani? That means free?
Yeah, al-ghani means, it's translated as rich, but it also means free from need and independence. So yeah, it's connected to Qiyam bi Nafs. All right.
Okay.
Yeah, you can connect that there. Then Allah is attributed with wahdaniyah. Wahdaniyah means that complete and absolute oneness, that there is nothing identical equal to him and nothing that is counted along with him. All right. The next one is Qudra, that Allah has power. Al-irada or al-irada means will or decree, that Allah wills, or he is attributed with will. He is attributed with ilm, or complete and perfect knowledge. He has hayat, that he is attributed with life. As-sam'u, that he is attributed with hearing. Al-basar, he is attributed with sight. And al-kalam, that he is attributed with speech. All right. So these are the 13 necessary attributes, and then there are going to be 7 more that we didn't cover in detail last week, but we're going to cover in this class today. So I want you to be able to run these off: al-wujud, al-kidam, al-baqa, al-mukallaf al-hawadith, qiyam bin nafs, wahdaniyya, qudra, irada, ilm, hayat, as-samu, al-basar, al-kalam. And so for us to go forward, you all will need to, not run it off like the style that I did, but just be able to recall them like that, inshallah. All right. I'm not asking you to do that today, but, I'm going to cover these attributes in detail for this week and the next week. And then after that, I want to, we should be having them down, and then we're going to continue in the book. Any questions so far?
No.
Now, like I said, I deliberately left off the translations, but I want you to, as you get the Arabic terms down, that you put in your mind and your notes what the translation is. But I want you to really know what they mean. Okay? Any questions?
Are these in the book? These attributes?
Yeah, they're in the poetry, but they're not mentioned like this because when you look at how the scholars of the past, when they wrote books of aqidah, some of these issues were complex. So if any of you know any background about Ashari aqidah? Any of you know?
I'm reading the book from Imam Tahawi right now, but
Okay.
I'm still reading it.
Yeah. So Ashari Aqidah, in some places, people will tell you that this is the Aqidah of the deviants because they don't know the context in which all of this curriculum and this codification was developed. So in historical context, that the Asharis, Imam Abu Hassan al-Ashari, when you read his biography, he was one of the people that were the Mu'tazila. The Mu'tazila was those who were called the rationalists. So that people who mixed Islam with rational ideas and philosophy and these kind of things, and he grew up in that environment. And so when you read his biography, it was a point where, and when you read it, maybe we'll cover it one day, that he had a question for one of his teachers. Well, he had 3 questions that his teacher couldn't answer. And when that happened, he realized that, that this wasn't the truth. And so he had left the Mu'tazila, the doctrine or the ideology. And so the Mu'tazila, like, we can look at it today and be like, these are people who went astray with respect to beliefs. But at that time, it wasn't like that, because even if you read some of their beliefs now, and we can just say the Mu'tazila, they erred in beliefs, but at that time, it wasn't like that, right? And so Imam Abu Hassan al-Ashari, after learning in there, being in that movement for 40 years, it is said that he got on the minbar one day. He said that I throw away that ideology the same way I throw this cloak off my back, right? And so then he proceeded to codify the belief of Ahlus Sunnah and refuting these people. So I always like to equate it like with one of the people of modern times. If you all heard of Sheikh Ahmed Didat.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you all remember Sheikh Ahmed Didat was a scholar and a da'i from South Africa, and he was really well versed in the Bible. So he used to use the Bible to refute the Christians, right? And so they could never really answer him because he knew their works. This is the same style that Imam Abu Hassan al-Ash'ari refuted the Mu'tazila, because he studied under them. So he knew how to approach them to refute them. So sometimes he would use their arguments, and sometimes, you know, he would take all of the arguments and discussions that they had became codified. And so this is where people who haven't studied Ash'ari Aqidah in context, they will say that he didn't follow Quran and Sunnah. He used rational proofs, or he used Greek philosophy, and these things are really slanders, because you have to put it in context. So basically, if you are refuting someone in the science, you have to know what they believe and what their mindset is, and then you use something to counter it. And so all of this became codified as a school. So you are here now, and I don't know where you all are, but in the area that we are, we have people who are, if you say Ash'ari, you know, they think that you're following something other than the Quran and Sunnah, like if you're reading the Torah or something, you know, because they don't understand the historical context of how the school was developed. And so in his refutation of the Mu'tazila and being a part of them, so all of this was documented, became known as the Ash'ari school. So it's similar to, like, let's say, what is it, Newton's theories of physics, or Newton's theory of gravity. Newton didn't invent science himself, but he came up with a formula that scientists use, right? You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So he didn't invent science, but he came up with a formula, with a scientific method that they use. Is it 100%? No, right? So the same thing with Imam Abu Hassan al-Ash'ari. He didn't invent Aqidah. So when we say Ash'ari Aqidah, it's not something different from the Quran and Sunnah. He just came up with a formula in refuting the Mu'tazila, you know, and so that would require a whole different separate discussion. But he came up with a formula refuting them, and in this refutation and the method that he used and the style and the arguments that he made, all of this is documented, and then it became codified as a way for Ahlus Sunnah to use these beliefs. So a lot of these discussions are very, you know, complex, and that's why scholars who looked at his work and said, okay, no need to reinvent the wheel. Let's just use what's already been established, and this has been preserved for all of these years, but let's simplify it for people who might not understand all these complexities, who are not going to read all this stuff. Like people like us, you know, we don't even have access to those kind of works, you know, so we're not going to be able to, you know, discuss all the arguments and compare what Imam Abu Hassan al-Ash'ari said and what the Mu'tazila said, not in any detail. And so scholars have taken these works and simplified it and made little books like that we're using. And if we think that this is a lot of information, which it is, but this is how important the issue of Aqidah is, that it has to be studied in depth and studied in context and be memorized and settled on the heart, because this is the most important subject. If you don't get belief right, then you won't get the rest of the stuff right. And if you get the rest of the stuff right, if the belief is not right, then it's almost all of the other stuff is null and void. So this is why scholars like Imam Abu Hassan al-Ash'ari took the liberty and the painstaking task to go through all of these issues, Aqidas, to approach these people who had these wrong beliefs and refute them and articulate with them, and it became a science. And so this is what we're studying now. And so, like I said, I don't in the areas where you all may be, you might not have these kind of people who will, you know, openly say that Ash'aris are deviants, and because they don't know. And then you have this other element that they will learn Arabic, and then they'll go to these books and read some of these statements and say, oh, see, the Ash'aris say this, and then they try to say that it's contrary to Quran and Sunnah. But the Ash'ari method is a curriculum. For instance, you can't study the elevated works in Ash'ari school if you haven't studied works like this. And just because you know Arabic, that don't mean you can go and read those books. You follow what I'm saying? Just because you know proper English, that don't mean you can just read Shakespeare. you know. So in that mindset, is that clear or?
Yes.
Crystal.
Okay. All right. So that's important to know, because when you say when we're discussing these attributes, and then people say, where's the Quran says that? Where's the Hadith says that? No, it's something that's called istinbat. It's something that where you extracting these principles that's based on the Quran and Sunnah. So, I don't know where this concept come from, but people act like that we're supposed to walk around quoting scriptures all the time. Nobody talks like that. The Quran is the law. The Sunnah is the law. You extract those things from the law. But, for the experts in the law, they have to know references. But for us, we need to know it so that our iman can be sound. You see what I'm saying? So we're not people that's going to, what's the proof for this and what's the proof of that? There are proofs. We don't need to know them. We don't need to quote them. We don't need to go around memorizing them. But we need to know that these principles are based on the proofs. You follow what I'm saying? And this is why this book is called Aqidatul Awwam, the Aqidah of the layperson. The layperson needs to know this. The layperson doesn't need to know what the Mu'tazila say in every instance and how Imam Abu Hassan al-Ash'ari refuted them, and likewise Imam Abu Mansur al-Maturidi and all of the scholars of Ahlus Sunnah, right? They don't need to know all that stuff, because you talking about books that are written in volumes and that are thousands of years old, and most of us don't know Arabic. So we automatically disqualified. So this puts things in perspective. All right. I don't want to go into that too much, because I live in an area that we often have to counter a lot of this nonsense, So please forgive me if I seem like I'm going over the board. All right, but is that clear for everyone?
Yes.
Plus my coffee just kicked in too. So so let me continue. All right. So these are the necessary attributes. All right, let's go to the next slide. Okay, so now we said those 13 necessary, and then there are 7 other ones we didn't cover last week, but we're going to cover them today. So I put the translation so you can get familiar with them. So the other necessary attributes is Qadir, that Allah is Qadir, that He is all powerful. That Allah is Murid, that He is willing. That Allah is Alim, He is all knowing. That He is Hayy, living. That Allah is Sami', all hearing. That Allah is Basir, all seeing. And that He is Mutakallim, that He is speaking. Or Mutakallim means the one who is speaking, or the speaker, or someone's currently speaking. All right, so these attributes are the 7 that are added to the 13 that we had already. And so this makes up the 20 necessary attributes. And as you can see already, some of them are a repeat of the ones you already had. So for instance, that Qudra is related to Qadir, right? That Muri is related to Irada. The Alam is related to Ilm. Hayy is related to Haya. Sami is related to Asamu. Basir is related to Al-Basar. And Mutakallim is related to Kalam. So it's related to those last 7 that we mentioned. And we're going to explain that relationship in the slides to come. All right. So
these are the names, right? So when we
these
use
are Allah's attributes.
because like when you say Al-Basir, the Al-Basir, like how it says when you call on the names of when you're making dua, call on the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Yeah, so Allah is Al-Basir, He is the all-seeing, but He is attributed with Al-Basar, sight. We're going to explain this in a few.
I get it.
Explain. So this is where the classification is going to come in. All right. So just give me a moment now. I'll try to explain to my very best. It won't be the best that you'll hear, but I'm gonna try my best. All right. So any questions on that? No questions? Okay, silence is consent. If you don't say that, I'm gonna keep rolling. All right. All right. Now we mentioned those categories. I think Sister Zakaria, you mentioned where we talked about sifat al-nafsiyah, sifat al-salbiyah, sifat al-ma'ani, and sifat al-ma'nawiyah. You remember those terms we mentioned last week?
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to go over them now. All right. So now that these attributes that we have, these 20 attributes, then they are classified in categories. All right. So the first one we said that was called sifat an-nafsiyah, which is the core or the self-signifying attribute. And out of those 20, only is only one of those. The second category is called sifat al-salbiyah, or the negating attributes, or those attributes that negate imperfection for Allah. And out of those 20, there are 5 of those. The sifat al-ma'ani is the quantitative attributes of, or attributes of meaning. And out of those 20, there are 7. And sifat al-ma'nawiyah, the qualitative attributes or states of being for Allah, and out of that are 7. So this is simple math right here. 7 and 7 and 5 and 1 has how many?
20.
Yeah, so it's 20 attributes. And the reason why that we're going to explain that out of these 20 attributes, you say 13 because many of them are, the last 7 are kind of a repetition of the 7 that preceded them. You had a question, Sister Zakaria?
Yes. So
Go ahead.
Sifa al-Ma'ani. I was, because you gave it to us last week. So you know, I always, when I take my remember I told you I take my scribble notes and then I take my thorough notes in a different notebook. So would you agree that we can also say, because somebody may not understand the quantitative attributes or attributes of meaning. So when I was looking into it, it's the definition I also got was anything that exists stands on his existence, which obligates rulings on it. Would that be a good definition? It also says it's anything that shows the meaning that stands on his essence.
Yeah, that's that works. That can apply as a meaning, but I'm going to go into each one of these in detail. I just want to give you the terms because you're going to need to know these terms. All right. So remember, we're taking our time with it. See, your mind is racing. You know, slow down. You know. It's okay. No, it's good to be inquisitive and be active. No, I appreciate it. Okay, so I just wanted to get you these terms down. You can copy them now, or let me know when you want me to go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm good if everybody else is good. Inshallah.
Good. All right, so we go to the next one. All right, so we're going to classify these now. So when we talk about the sifat an-nafsiyah, this is sifat of nafsiyah means you see the word nafs or independent or the self. You know, the nafs means like the self or the soul, and not saying Allah doesn't have a soul, but we're saying that nafsiyah is the sifat that is by itself, that is independent. And so the meaning of sifat an-nafsiyah is the core or self-signifying attributes and the attribute. And this is the attribute that without this one, an entity could not be known or conceived. So nafsiyah mean here that it's in a category by itself, this one attribute. And that attribute here is al-wujud. All right. And so the meaning that we want to get from it is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, before anything else, that before that we can believe that he is one, that he is all powerful and all these other attributes that are necessary. And in addition to all of the attributes that and names that he has, that Allah is al-Kareem, he is al-Rahman, he is Rahim, he is al-Malik, al-Qudus, al-Salam, al-Mu'min, al-Muhaymin, al-Aziz, al-Jabbar, all those names, right? He cannot have any of those names or any of those attributes if he doesn't have this quality of existence. All right. And so this is why this attribute is qualified, put in the class by itself, because he has to exist first before any of those other ones can apply. Is that clear? Is that clear?
How do you spell that? Excuse me, Imam. How do you spell that attribute?
Al-Wujud. It's right there in bold. I don't. Oh, you can't see the slides because you're on the phone.
I would tune in, but I don't want to be shown. It's like I can
Say it
call
again.
back. I can come in on the Zoom, on the Google, but I don't want to be like on the video.
Yeah, you could turn your camera off. You don't have to show your face or anything. But
Okay.
if you want to
I
come
think
in on that, or you can go back and watch the YouTube videos, is up to you.
Inshallah, I'll come back and give me a minute.
Okay.
Sister Stevie needed a little bit more explanation, Imam.
Yeah, go ahead, Sister Stevie. You had a question?
Oh, no question. I apologize if I raised my hand or something. I'm taking notes.
Oh, it should.
Oh, I saw the thumb when he asked, "Well, did you understand?" You had the thumbs
Yeah, the
down, so I
thumbs
didn't
down.
know.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Like Cisco and Ebert. Y'all remember that show, the movie ratings? You gave me a
Yes.
thumbs down.
No, I meant thumbs up.
Oh, okay, because thumb down mean like rejected. I mean, like I'm like,
Yeah.
come on. I'm pouring my heart out here. Like okay. MashaAllah. Okay. The sister just rejoined, I believe so. Okay, Assalamu alaikum, Sister Amina. Yeah, you can keep your camera off. Okay. All right, so here the sifat al-nafsiyya, we could just say that is the sifat that's in our terms is in the class by itself, because before we can believe anything else about Allah, that we have to believe that he exists. And then when you put this in context, this tackles some of the concepts that we're battling against today, where people who don't, atheism is a growing concept, that people don't believe that Allah exists. So here in classifying these attributes, the scholars have covered all grounds, so there's no need to reinvent the wheel about trying to, clarify aqidah, because it's already been done for us all around the board. All right. So the first one is sifat an-nafsiyya, and that one is al-wujud. All right. Any questions on that? Okay, so the next category is sifat al-salbiyya. And so sifat al-salbiyya that we said is the negating attributes, or the attributes that negate, and they're called sifat al-salbiyya because they are the attributes that negate and reject for Allah any defects and imperfections that are not befitting of his majesty. All right. So that's why they call it sifat al-salbiyya, and there are 5 of those. And so those 5 attributes is al-qidam. All right. So that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if he wasn't pre-eternal or existing without a beginning, which is the meaning of al-qidam, then that means he would have a beginning, and this would be the imperfection, and he will have a defect. And so that's not befitting of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So remember that the classification of these attributes and why it's necessary to know them, because it is to, so we can clearly understand who Allah is and why he is, and gives us that sweetness of Iman. The sweetness of Iman comes when we know our Lord and we know who we worship, and we know why our purpose is here, only really to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if our worship and our dedication and all of our sacrifice is supposed to be for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then we have to know who he is thoroughly. So that's the whole purpose behind these classifications. So this and now every time you're in your prayer, you're praying to the one who is unlike anything, who is all powerful, definitely exists, definitely has all knowledge. You know what I'm saying? And so that's why it's important to know these things. So the 5 sifat al-salbiyya, or the negating attributes, and they mean by negating that they negate and any defects or imperfections for Allah. So al-qidam is existing pre-eternally without a beginning. Al-baqa is everlasting, without any end, that Allah doesn't come to an end, he doesn't expire, right? Mukhalafa lil hawadith, that Allah is opposite or dissimilar to anything that occurs, to any events or anything that's in creation. So you'll see the translation that he is dissimilar from his creation. All right. Because what is a thing that is created, that it comes into existence? And even if it even if some things that are defined as everlasting, it either had to become into existence or it has to come to an end, right? So for instance, we have an example that something came into existence, but it has to have an end, right? Or something that, or the opposite, right? But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is unlike anything, because anything that comes into existence is subjected to time, that is subjected to change. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is different, because Allah is not subjected to time, because anything that has time is going to change, is going to age, is going to go through some type of change. So, and Allah is different because He does not change. You know, al-Qiyam bin-Nafs, which is the one Allah is self-subsisting. He's independent in and of Himself. That He is not dependent on anything. He is not in need of any assistance or need of anything for Him to be existing. Unlike us, you know, that we have to be here, we have to have food, we have to have nourishment, we have to have place, all of these things that we need something to assist us to be, you know, we're dependent. All right, and everything in creation is dependent, because everything, if there's no sunlight, you know, this what we know as existence won't even exist. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who created the sun. All right, and then the next attribute, wahdaniyah, which is complete and absolute oneness for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this negates any rivals, any partners, any likeness, any similitude to Allah, or anything that, you know, we don't, when we say oneness, we don't mean that there's a two-ness for anything else, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is absolutely one and unique in His existence.
Couldn't we attribute that to the testimony, the shahada, when you say la ilaha illallah?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, and better than that, and there's also, you say la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika la, right? Wahdahu, okay. He is one, and there is no partners for Him. So this is the meaning of wahdaniyah. He is one without any partners, without any rivals, without any equals. There are no two gods in existence. There are no multiple gods, and so it is reserving that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is absolutely one. Right. Okay. Any questions on that? Okay, I'll go to the next slide.
Excuse me.
Yeah, go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. Are we able to call on these names as well as to invoke Allah's blessing or dua?
Normally you don't call on these names. These are to give you clarification of why we call on Allah, because He possesses these qualities that are unlike anything. So when you call on those names, you call on Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, Ya Malik, Ya Al-Qudus, or, you know, any of those names. You call on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But these names are giving you the meaning of why we call on Allah in the beginning, because of who He is. Why is Allah who He is? Because He possessed these qualities that are unlike anything, that are totally unique. So these are giving you the definition of Allah's in His essence, in His attributes, and in His actions. So no, normally you wouldn't, you know, we don't say Ya Mukhallafa lil Hawadith. No, we don't call on Allah. Well, although, you know, I never heard any scholars saying that, but it's better to use His names. But so these are characteristics and qualities. So there's a difference between a name of Allah and an attribute. All right, and we'll discuss that coming up in down the line. But normally we should call on like those 99 names, or, you know, Ya Aziz, Ya Al-Ghaffar, you know, all of those names we should use.
All right, shukran.
No problem. Okay. So the next category, so we have Sifat al-Nafsiyah, Sifat al-Salbiyah, then we have Sifat al-Ma'ani. And so these are the attributes of meaning. Ma'ani means, you know, meaning, or the quantitative attributes. And so these are the attributes that affirm for Allah's essence qualities and meanings that are appropriate for His perfection. So the ones before, they negate imperfection, and these attributes, they affirm perfection for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so, and then to your question, Sister Amina, these are embedded in those names that you call on. So if you call on Allah, He is Al-Qadir, Ya Qadir, then you know that you're calling on the one who has Qudra, right? If you say Ya Alim, that all knowing, you're calling on the one who is attributed with Ilm. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
If you say Ya Samir, say it again.
I get it.
Okay. So if you say Ya Samir, if you call on Allah, all they are hearing, you're calling on the one who is attributed with Asamu, hearing. Right? Okay, so these are the 7 that are Sifat al-Ma'ani, that these are the quantitative attributes, all right? And so they are 7 in number. So Qudra, which means power, Irada, which means will or decreeing, Ilm, which is knowledge, Haya is life, As-Sam'u is hearing, Al-Basar is sight, and Al-Kalam is speech. All right, and so we believe in these names and attributes for Allah in the absolute sense, that they are unlike anything related to creation. So Qudra, when we say power, it means all power, Irada means will, the all will, and like that. Okay, any questions on this?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so sorry, I may have jumped ahead again, but with Sifa al-Ma'ani, what my understanding is that Sifa al-Ma'nawiya, they go together. They have the same essence. So I guess what I'm trying to say. So when you have the 7 for al-Ma'ani, the other ones are like the names or something, right? Like, is that? Am I going too? Because I'm sorry.
You're correct in that you jumped the gun. Oh, which is good. Okay, alhamdulillah. No, so that's going to be the exact next slide that I'm going to go into. All right, you ready? Or Sister Zakaria, you telling me I got to go 2 and 3 slides ahead for you, or you already know something I don't know? What's going on?
No, well, okay. So I'm the type
No,
of
I'm just messing
student
with you.
that I take my scribble notes, but I gotta have a understanding, and so I may just go ahead to understand.
No, that's cool. There's a saying, Dr. Jawanza Kunjumfu, he said, if students don't learn the way you teach, then you should teach it the way that they learn. Right? And so I appreciate that, alhamdulillah. So this is an interactive class anyway. So, but the next slide is kind of going to cover what but alhamdulillah, being ahead of the curve. All right. Everybody clear on this right here? Okay.
No.
Right. All right, and so the next category is Sifat al-Ma'nawiyya. So we have Sifat al-Nafsiyya, Sifat al-Salbiyya, Sifat al-Ma'ani, and Sifat al-Ma'nawiyya. So here, Ma'nawiyya, you hear the same word as Ma'ani, right? And so that already tells you this connected, as Sister Zakaria said. And so these are the qualitative or abstract attributes, or the attributes that describe the states of being for Allah. And so you can say that these are the active forms of the Sifat al-Ma'ani. All right? The active forms of the Sifat al-Ma'ani, meaning that Allah is attributed with these eternal attributes that are necessary for us to know that we already covered. And now these 7, that means that these are current, right? These are current. All right? So the one thing that we know and we should know is that Allah attributes, they are eternal just as He is. Meaning that, and Sister Zakaria, you probably read this already in the Aqidatul, that Allah doesn't become the creator once He creates something. He has always been the creator. But the creator means that He brings something from non-existence to existence. So at the time He brings something from non-existence to existence, He doesn't become the creator at that time. He was always eternally with the attribute of creating. You follow what I'm saying?
Yes, I did read that.
Okay, yes. So this is the same concept here, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has these attributes that are eternal with Him that we mentioned, الوجود كدم بقاء مخالفة للحوادث قيام بنفس وحدانية قدرة إرادة علم حياة سمع basar and kalam. These are all his necessary attributes that are eternal with him, but they become active. They are always active, but they always existed with him, meaning that they don't just occur out of nowhere. They were eternal. You follow what I'm saying? So for instance, those ma'ani attributes that we mentioned just in the last slide, these are the qualitative or abstract attributes. So for instance, to put it in our terms, that if Allah is attributed with qudra, power, that means he is qadir, he is all powerful, meaning he is always all powerful. He has the eternal attribute of qudra, right? But he is always all powerful, all qadir at all times. So, and then when we're going to get into the opposite attributes, then these will even qualify these attributes even more, right? The attributes that are impossible. So you remember that line I wrote, Sister Khadija? She said that we would go over all the time last week.
Yes, I remember.
With respect to Allah's necessary attributes, the blank of them are inconceivable and the blank of them are impossible.
With regards to the necessary attributes, the absence of them is inconceivable, and
right.
the opposite is impossible.
Right.
I was practicing that.
Get your lines down.
Yes.
Okay, alhamdulillah. And so with these, that's a line that we remember, and it helps us to kind of preserve these meanings. The absence of these necessary attributes, it is inconceivable for the human mind to even, to think of these things or believe in a creator or believe in a deity that doesn't possess these attributes, right? In the absolute sense, right? And then the opposite of them are impossible. So because if the opposite applied, then these means that he will have imperfection. So we don't even we identify what the opposites are and know that they are impossible for Allah, meaning that impossible for his majesty. Not, we already discussed that we don't say that anything is impossible for Allah, but we talk about his essence, his that, who he is, right? His being, that these attributes do not apply to him. All right, and we're going to cover them next week. All right, so the qualitative attributes is Qadir, Murid, Alim, Hay, Sami', Basir, and Mutakallim. So here, as we were saying, so if Allah is attributed with Qudra, that means he has to be Qadir. He has to be all-powerful, actively being all-powerful, right? That he is attributed with Irada, then he actively has to be Murid. He has to be willing. He has to be decreeing, like it's active. Because, there was a movement at one time and people who they didn't believe in the qadr of Allah who's subhanahu wa ta'ala, or concepts where people believe that Allah created all this and like he's absent from the creation. Like everything that's happening in the creation, that he doesn't have anything to do with it. So this is what these active form means, that he is doing these things, that they're ongoing, right? They're eternally ongoing, if that makes sense. So that if Allah has irada, that means he is murid, that he is decreeing currently. He has an eternal attribute with him that's irada, and he is currently in real time, he is willing and decreeing things from that eternal attribute, right? That alim, he knows, all knowing, and that is going currently, and that he has the eternal attribute of ilm, of knowing everything before it happens and all of that. So he is all knowing in real time, right? Al-Hayy, that he is living, that if Allah is attributed with an eternal attribute of a Hayya, life, then he has to be living. He is coming, he is alive, and so forth and so on. All right. So that Allah has the eternal attribute of Sam'u, of hearing, then he is all hearing. I mean, with hearing, he is all hearing. If he has an eternal attribute of Basar, sight, that means he is all seeing in currently. And that he has the eternal attribute of kalam, of al-kalam, speech. That means he is mutakallim, all right? And so mutakallim doesn't mean he's speaking, like we mentioned, he doesn't speak with words or sounds, but he is speaking. He's in the current state of kalam, right? So these describes Allah's states of being in the most perfect form. All right.
You said last week Allah's speech is eternal, and there's
Yes.
two types of speech: the eternal and the created.
Right. Right. And so what we mean from that is that the eternal speech is what Allah has is part of his necessary is that. And that speech is uncreated. It has no beginning, right? It has no beginning. And then the speech that we use that is a manifestation of that eternal speech, which is in the Quran, those words and sounds and letters and sentence structures, they are created, but not this speech. They're just what's the best way? A representation of that eternal speech. All right. And so if you look at this in context and history, this is where arguments came where the Mu'tazila used to make this argument that how could speech be that unless it is created and sound? So the Quran had to be created. And so when you study some history of how this applied in Islam with the scholars, this was a big argument that a person could lose their life based on what they believed about this, right? So that people said the Quran was uncreated, then they got killed. So if you look at the history of just as a reference, look at the history of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal and the trials that he went through because he refused to say that the Quran was created, right?
Yeah, I watched his documentary. Mashallah, he went through a lot.
Yeah,
And
so it's
but he
very,
stood
very
his
powerful.
ground though.
Yeah, when he stood up for Ahlus Sunnah, and so it is very powerful. So that's beyond the scope of this talk here, but there's something that you can check out. Yeah, there is a series of Ahmed ibn Hanbal. I think it's Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal rahimahullah. I forget the name of it. It might be called just that. I'm not sure. You know what the name of it is, Sister Zakaria?
I don't remember the name. I have it saved on my YouTube. I saw it on YouTube.
Yeah. If you can
It
remember,
was Islamic. I know it's under the channel Islamic Guidance.
yeah. Okay. If you can remember, you can share it in the WhatsApp group, inshallah. All right. So
Inshallah.
any questions on this?
Okay, I do.
Go ahead.
I want to make sure I understand the two together. So basically what is being said is al-Ma'ani and al-Ma'nawiya. Al-Ma'nawiya are the attributes that exist due to the existence of the attributes of al-Ma'ani.
Yeah, so they can basically qualify those attributes that have the meaning.
Okay. So they
right.
it's like a extra, it's like a assurance or a backup or something like that.
Yeah. So it gives them more quality. So it's just like an emphasis. So to know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala isn't just these eternal attributes and then that's the end of it. So he has to have these attributes, they go together, that he can't be attributed with life and not be currently living, or currently present. He can't be attributed with irada and not be currently decreeing things, like, because if he has internal the attribute of irada that he wills or decrees something, but it is currently ongoing as well. So, and it's the same with all of these.
Al-Qadr, one of the 6 articles of faith, right?
That's a different meaning there. It comes from the same Arabic root word, but qadr, it does mean divine preordainment. That, and it relates to this, that the qadr has you can say 3 levels. We covered this in another class, but you have the qada, the qudra, and irada, right? So the qada is the eternal decree. The qudra is what that Allah brings into existence, or the irada, and then the qudra is what he decrees. He has the qada is the eternal decree. Did I stop sharing? Hold on.
I think it went off. Yes, it looks like it.
I'm sorry. Let me see. So the qada is the eternal decree. The qadar is what he brings into existence from non-existence, from the eternal decree, and then the irada, or the willing.
Hold on, I can't write that fast.
All right.
Now I got the Carter. That's the eternal decree.
No, the
you said
Qadar.
Qadar.
The Qadar is eternal decree.
Qadar is eternal
No,
decree.
no, not with an R on the end. Qadar. Qadar.
Qada. Oh,
Yeah.
Qaadi.
Let's see. QADA apostrophe. I had to bring them next week. But it's Qadar means like what Allah has decreed eternally, and that's with him in the Lawh Mahfuz in the preserved tablet. That's already eternal, right?
Okay.
In the irada, or the the qadr, or the determining in real time, is what he brings from non-existence into existence, whatever he wills from that qadar, right? So whatever is meant to happen comes into existence. Whatever is meant to happen doesn't come into existence. And then the irada, or the determining, is how it all comes, how it happens, how this doesn't happen, how did this happen, was why this person didn't kill, why dropped off a building, why this one did, how this one escaped. All of that is his determining in real time.
Okay.
So and it relates to Allah having total, complete knowledge and control of everything that happens.
Okay. Qada, eternal decree. Qadar, Qadar is bringing from non-existence to existence.
Yes, determining.
Irada.
Yeah. Determining
Irada
comes from non-existence to existence, and then the irada is willing what happens and what doesn't happen.
How it happens in real time. Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure my notes was true.
All right. Okay.
Okay.
Good.
One more question. I'm sorry. So when you say when you say Kanu Kadiran, what is the Kanu? Can you tell me that?
The
What does that
Kanu?
mean? Yeah, when you say Kanu, Kaunuhu, is that like is that?
I said that.
No, I remember I told you I when I take my scribble notes and then I do my other notes in a different notebook for a class, because you remember you gave us all the classifications last week, but you said you were going to go over them in thorough details, but I just read and try to get ahead.
Oh, you reading this from somewhere else?
Yeah, I read this from somewhere else. So I was wondering if you could. It says Kanu Kadiran, he the most exalted, being powerful. So I didn't know. I was I couldn't find the Arabic for Kanu, Kaunuhu. So I didn't know if that was if that had anything to do with, because it's under it was under the.
It sounds like it comes from the word kana and kunu, that he is or he was. And so Allah's being that he is all powerful. It means the verb means to be. I think that's what you're saying. So he is all powerful. And to be, and there's another term that's called takween, that we're going to discuss down the line, but it's not right here now. But offline we could discuss this if you don't mind, because I need to just tell me where you got it from. We can is that cool?
Yeah, that's cool. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay. And so now just to recap, because I want to try to keep it up under an hour, and so we've over our a little bit. So I just want you to notice. So sifat an-nafsiyya, the one attribute is al-wujud, which is existence. The sifat al-sabiyya, also sifat an-nafsiyya, is the self-signifying attribute, or the attribute that is in a class by itself. Let's just say that is al-wujud, which is existence. Sifat al-salbiyya, or the negating attributes, or the attributes that negate any imperfections from Allah. And so they are al-qidam, which means to exist pre-eternally without a beginning. Al-baqa, which means to be everlasting without an end. Mukhalafa lil hawadith is to be dissimilar or opposite to creation or anything that occurs. Al-qiyam bin nafs is to be self-subsisting and independent in and of himself without any need of anything. Al-wahdaniyya, which is absolute oneness for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sifat al-ma'ani is the attributes of meaning, or the quantitative attributes that are give Allah his absolute meaning, and that they affirm perfections for Allah who subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And so Qudra, which means that he is attributed with power, Irada is attributed with will, Ilm is attributed with knowledge, Haya is attributed with life, Asamu he is attributed with hearing, Al-Basar he is attributed with sight, and Al-Kalam he is attributed with speech. And Sifat al-Ma'nawiyya, or the qualitative attributes, or the abstract attributes, or those attributes that are the active form of the Sifat al-Ma'ani. So that means that if Allah is attributed with these eternal attributes that make him who he is, then he has to be they have to be active, right? So that Allah, if he has Qudra, that he is Qadir, he is all powerful. That if he has Irada, he has a will, that means he is Murid, that he is decreeing and willing. If he has Ilm, he's attributed with knowledge, that means he is Alim, all knowing. He is Haya, he has attributed with Haya, life, that means he is Hayy, living. As-Sam'u, that he is attributed with hearing, that means he is Sami, all hearing. Al-Basar, that he is attributed with sight. Of course, you know, sight and hearing, that we talk about without any instruments or organs or any kind of assistance, right? And so he is attributed with Basir, that all seeing, all hearing, and that he has eternal attribute of Al-Kalam, which is speech, and that means he is Mutakallim, that he is speaker or speaking. All right, and so this recap here, this is probably most important for you to know these classifications. I think that's the end of the, let me see. Yeah, that's the end of the slides. Did you all get that?
Yes.
Okay, I was about to say, if then it's too late now. So, all right, any questions? Okay, and then remember, this whole thing is designed, the scholars have come to give us the sweetness of Iman, because, you know, having Iman and having beliefs is one of the difficult things to maintain, and something that we always have to reassure. So the more knowledge that you have of the one that you're worshiping, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the easier it is to have sweetness of worship, being able to deal with difficulties in life, because you understand that all of this you're going through is for Allah, and you know who Allah is. You know who he is, you know what he's not, you know what he's capable of, you know what's necessary for him, what is possible, what is impossible for him. And once you start to, you know, put these things in real life situations, it helps you give clarity, and it's a means to increase your Iman, because Iman has to be based on knowledge. And we mentioned last week that Allah says in the Quran, "Fa'alam annahu la ilaha illallah." Know for certainty that there is no God except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so who is that? Who is that Allah? That's what all this is about. Who is the Allah that we worship and we give our reverence to? That he is unseen, he has no likeness, he has no similarity. He's not even a he, even though we use the word he. What is it about him? Why are we in awe of Allah? By his creation, by his attributes. What makes him who he is, and why he's unlike anything? So that's the whole purpose of this, right? And so it's been codified for us in the system to give us an intellectual stimulation, because Aqidah is the science of the mind, knowing who you worship and then being able to articulate it, because you know for certain that this is what you know. All right. And so this is why we've also taken our time to walk it down, you know, take our time with it, learning, inshallah, and make sure we memorize. So memorization is going to be important, because we got some things coming up in this book that by the end of it, you got it on, you know, because we have to give ourselves to knowledge like that we do have to memorize things, you know. All right. So is there any question before we conclude? Any comments, suggestions, criticisms?
That book that you mentioned, Sheikh, where do we get that?
Which book was it again?
The one you just mentioned.
Well, Aqidatul Awwam, the one we learning now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did you put your email in the chat?
I will.
Yeah, if
Inshallah.
you can put your email in the chat, I'll email you a copy of the book.
All right, shukran.
Okay, and then this will be loaded up on YouTube so you can review and the notes that we've done. This is not your first class, right?
I think I was at the first class that you had when you first started, and
And
you
then
read
you
the poem.
and then you've been delinquent ever since.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I get it.
Astaghfirullah. I must have
No,
had
I'm just messing with you,
slipped my
but
mind.
no, no worries, mashallah. So I try to format my classes that at any time someone comes in, they won't be totally lost, and I hope that's not the case. So we're just taking our time with this, and just really making sure that we understand the information. So I mean, we can just easily read through the book in a couple weeks. I mean, I've seen some people do the book in like 2 hours, 2 hours and just going through it. But my teaching method is that if people are taking their time with me to learn, then I want to make sure they get something that they're not just, it's not, you get information all over. There's plenty of speakers, there's plenty of teachers you can learn from. But if you roll with me, I want to make sure that, you're learning, inshallah. And just based on what I've learned, I'm teaching you stuff that I learned from teachers. So, may Allah accept it. So if there are no questions, I don't want to take too much of your time. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it beneficial for us and make this knowledge that we can use and digest and to increase us in good knowledge and good works and good actions and to make it a means for us to know our Lord. And so as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala recognizes us, that he will be pleased with us with our efforts. I mean, subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika wa nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta wa nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Al-Fatiha. Alhamdulillah. Okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Ameen. Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.